Hey guys, it's Jared. Hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. I did. It was awesome. Uh, Tonight I'm going to go ahead and do another Young and Restless video. Uh, right now the writers are in transition still, trying to change the show into what their vision is. They've already got rid of the characters that they couldn't write for or who really didn't serve a big purpose, and they're almost finished retooling the storylines, and if not completely dropping them, just spinning them around to what they can work with. They finally finished the Ricky storyline, and it looks like they are about to wrap up everything involving Christine and Paul and Nina. I was worried about how this would end up, but I'm think that the writers did the best that they could, and they did a great job. Honestly, this is the one storyline that's going on right now that it's my favorite storyline, because it's taking these three characters and they're not doing anything out of character. It's it sucks seeing Nina kicked in the teeth again, and seeing that aspect of Nina's always feeling second best to Christine, but it's also very realistic. It's one of the most real things about their friendship is that you're on one side or another in this totem pole, but everyone's been on both sides. We've all been jealous of someone who seems to get the things that we want, and we kind of sometimes we can hold them responsible for it even though they're not doing anything wrong. And then on the flip side, we've also been in positions to where we're the Christine in this friendship, and we almost have to apologize for our lives. And the best thing to do when you're on either side is to just be nice to the other person, because when you never improve whenever you're always comparing your life to someone else's. And that's what's so great about Christine and Nina's relationship, is that no matter how bad things get between them, they're always going to try to hold on to each other, because before there was Paul, and before they fell in love with Philip or Danny, they loved each other, and they're always going to love each other. And I think after a while, Nina's going to eventually be healed enough to where she can try to get back on track, back to normal with Christine and even Paul. She's grown a lot over the past 20 something odd years that she's been on the show. She's not yelling and screaming, and she's understandably upset, but she also knows that she's not doing herself any favors by staying in a relationship with Paul. And she did the right thing by just cutting ties and telling him that she's not gonna stand in his and Christine's way. I don't even think she's that angry with Christine over it, because I think she knows that Christine probably would have left everything alone and backed off and not even pursued anything with Paul. But why should Christine sacrifice her happiness for a relationship that's not going to work? And that's what Nina's thinking. I'm not saying that Christine should have. If Nina would have said, you need to back off, then I'm sure Christine would have. She would have, and that's just in character with her. So, and then Paul deserves to be, to be happy after the last few years. If it wasn't the Ricky storyline, it was him dealing with Patty, and you just never his moments of happiness were very few and far between. his last big relationship was with Christine back in 2005, and until then, since then, he's dated Lauren, and then she went on to marry Michael. He's dated Nikki, he's dated Ashley, he's dated Maggie, the police officer that got stabbed by Sheila when she was looking like Phyllis. He's dated, I think, yeah, he dated Christine right after the Isabel thing, before he and Lauren gave it another go. But anyway, all of those relationships, they ended civil like, in a civil like manner, because all of them, they just decided to be friends. And he winded up with Nina, but you never got the idea that they were meant for each other. You kind of got the idea that they were just comfortable with each other. And she was always out of town, and they just weren't. You just didn't feel that they. I didn't give it much thought, but if I would have gave it much thought, I wouldn't have been surprised at all that they broke up, because it just seemed like the writers needed something to do with those two, so they put them together. Which brings me to how upset I am that they're probably getting rid of these three characters. Not so much Paul and Christine, because I feel like we're past the time to where they could lead the show. They could be, the stars of the show. But I'm especially upset because Nina came on in 2008, and the first storyline involved her son Chance and Philip coming back, and that was a mess for obvious reasons. I'm not going to get into that. And the next storyline that they dropped the ball on was her relationship with Ronan. They didn't put much thought into it. It always seems like they kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and now both of the actors are going to be gone, and no matter, there's just not enough time for a proper resolution with those two, because there's a good chance that neither one of those two are ever going to come back to the show. And so it really sucks, because this storyline has been been in the back of longtime viewers' minds for a long time, because it was never resolved until recently, that about her losing her son being taken from her, and this is how she's leaving. And then I hope Paul and Christine get their happy ending. I think they're at a stage in their lives to where they could, get a really serious go at it. And the whole thing with Danny, Danny, I never knew who she should have been with either Danny or Paul. I would have been happy with her ending up with either one of them. They both have their good sides, so both of them cheated on her, I think. So they're pretty much even. Moving on from those three, like I said, that the writers are in the middle of a transition, so they're wrapping up storylines, and I think the next step is the new actors and the new characters that they decide to bring on. And they are new characters altogether, because I haven't heard of any returning characters. I think the only one they brought back was Jill, and I don't think she was gone for good, but I think she was just on an extended leave. But usually new characters on soap operas they're not good, and I just hope they don't take up this. I mean, not good, I'm not saying they're not good, they're just not well received. She's bringing on two characters that are, the actors that are playing them are going to be, they were male models, they're African American male models. So I assume that the way that these soap operas go, that one of them is going to be involved with Lily somehow, maybe pursuing her or whatever. and then the other one I don't really know. Uh, it could, maybe they'll pair him up. If he's not related to Leslie, they might try to pair him up with her. They need to take a serious look at the Winters family right now, because they're the weakest link going on right now, because they can't have a serious relationship with Neil to save their lives. No one. It's just that we automatically assume that every African American female on the show is going to end up sleeping with Neil, because that's how it always goes. But we'll have to see. They haven't done anything worse than what the previous writers have done, or even as bad. So I don't really know what's in store. That Victoria getting kidnapped came out of nowhere, and that looks like something that you would see on General Hospital. But that's just because as a fan of General Hospital, it's easy for me to make that connection to this with the whole Jill Thayer and Phelps thing. So we still gotta, there's still hope. So